I'd just set my suitcase on the conveyor belt when his fist connected with my jaw right there at the check-in counter, in front of everyone. "Hands off!" A TSA officer yanked him back, cuffs clicking onto Randy's wrists while flight announcements echoed overhead. My mother turned away, just like she had 11 years ago. But this time I wasn't running. I had security footage, an emergency protection order ready to file, and a plan to put everything back where it belonged literally, legally, permanently. My name is Ava Whitaker, and I've spent the last 11 years building a career that revolves around evidence, documentation, and making sure nobody gets away with breaking the rules. As a compliance and internal investigation specialist at Summit and Crew Holdings in Manhattan, I've learned that paper trails don't lie, people do. The call about my grandfather's death came at 6:43 a.m. on a Tuesday. Heart failure, peaceful, expected. I booked the first flight to Indianapolis, then a rental to Riverton. Simple, clean, until I saw them at LaGuardia. Randy Pike stood next to my mother at the Delta check-in, his gut hanging over designer jeans he couldn't afford, probably bought with money that wasn't his. 55 years old, unemployed for the last 3, and somehow still sporting a new gold watch. My mother, Marla Pike. She'd taken his name 5 years after Dad died, clutched her purse like it might run away. Well, Princess finally shows up. Randy's breath hit me before his words did stale beer and menthol cigarettes. "Your mother's been crying for 2 days. And where were you?" "Working." I kept my voice level, professional, the same tone I used in depositions. "My flight board's in 20 minutes. "Working." He spat the word. "Too good for family, but not too good to come sniffing around when there's an inheritance." My mother's eyes darted between us. "Randy, please." "Shut up, Marla." His voice carried across the check-in area. A family with small children moved away. "Your daughter thinks she's hot shit with her Manhattan job. Probably told you to get that lawyer, didn't she?" The lawyer. So he knew about the consultation I'd arranged for Mom last month? The one about protecting her assets, reviewing the deed to Dad's farm, understanding her rights, the one she'd sworn she'd kept confidential. "That's between Mom and her attorney," I said, lifting my suitcase onto the scale. The first blow caught me on the left side of my jaw, snapping my head sideways. The second never landed. A TSA officer badge reading Martinez had Randy's arm twisted behind his back before I'd even processed the pain. "Sir, you need to calm down immediately." "Get your hands off me, that bitch has been poisoning my wife." "Sir, stop resisting." 2 Port Authority officers materialized. Professional, efficient. Randy's face went from red to purple as they cuffed him. My mother pressed herself against a pillar, the same way she'd hidden in the kitchen that night 11 years ago when Randy had thrown a bottle at my head, the night I'd left Indiana with nothing but a duffel bag and a promise to never come back. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" Officer Martinez had gentle eyes. "We need to document this." "I'm fine." My jaw throbbed. Tomorrow it would bruise perfect for photos. "I want to press charges." "No." My mother's voice cracked. "Ava, please. It was just..." "Just what, Mom?" "A misunderstanding." I turned to the officers. "I want a full report. The airline has cameras at every check-in counter. I'll need that footage." Randy laughed, ugly and sharp. "Good luck with that, Princess. You got nothing on me. This is my family, my house, my... Actually, it's not." The words came out calm, calculated. "Dad's farm was never yours. And Mom's consultation with that lawyer. It was about the fraudulent equity loan you took out. The one with her forged signature." His face went white. "Beautiful." The officers took him away while travelers pretended not to stare. My mother stood frozen, tears making tracks through her foundation. I pulled out my phone and texted Jonah Mercer, Grandpa's old friend and the best property lawyer in 3 counties. "Landing at 4 p.m. Have the emergency protective order ready. Bringing evidence." In my carry-on, tucked between my laptop and a black dress for the funeral, sat a folder 3 inches thick, property deeds, bank statements. The original 2012 co-signing agreement that named me as partial owner, the safety net I'd created when I'd first started working, helping Mom save the farm from foreclosure. Photos of Dad's military memorabilia from online pawn shops, screenshots of Randy's casino receipts. 11 years ago, I ran from his violence with nothing but fear. This time, I was coming home with something far more dangerous than fists: evidence. The Whitaker farm sat on County Road 9 like a ghost wearing someone else's clothes. The apple orchard Dad had planted the year I was born gone, replaced by gravel for Randy's boat and ATV. The wraparound porch where Mom taught me to braid friendship bracelets now sagged under the weight of rusted exercise equipment. Even the mailbox had changed from Whitaker to Pike. Inside was worse. Every family photo had been replaced with Randy's deer heads and neon beer signs. Dad's hand-carved mantelpiece, painted white. The hardwood floors, covered with cheap laminate that was already peeling at the corners. I dropped my bags in what used to be my room, now Randy's man cave, complete with a 60-inch TV that probably cost more than Mom's car. The funeral was tomorrow. I had tonight to work. The courthouse website gave me what I needed first. Last year's property records showed a quiet title transfer Mom had added Randy as co-owner for refinancing purposes. But there, in the legal description, a beautiful footnote, subject to prior co-sign agreement and right of first refusal, dated March 2012. March 2012, 3 months into my first real job, when I'd co-signed to help Mom refinance after Dad's death. The paperwork I'd insisted on, despite Mom saying it wasn't necessary. 22-year-old me had been paranoid. 32-year-old me was grateful. I pulled up the banking records next. The home equity line of credit opened 6 months ago showed Mom's signature, except Mom dots her I's with little circles. Always has. These I's had plain dots. Amateur work. The $75,000 had disappeared in steady withdrawals, each one matching charges at the Riverstar Casino or Big Mike's Motorsports. In the basement, behind Randy's beer fridge, I found the boxes Mom had promised to keep safe. Dad's things. She'd said. Most were empty. His Purple Heart gone. Bronze Star gone. The engineering compass he'd carried through Iraq gone. But the receipts were still there, stuffed in a Maxwell House can. Pawn shop receipts, each one in Randy's name. Military medal, $50. Vintage compass, $30. Combat boots, worn, $15. My father's service sold for less than $1,000 total. I photographed everything, uploaded it to 3 different cloud services, emailed copies to Jonah Mercer and my personal attorney in New York. Then I drove to the pawn shop on Highway 37. These items, I showed Big Eddie the photos. I want them back. Sold 'em months ago. He didn't look up from his newspaper. Guy came in, bought all the military stuff. Cash. Who, don't remember. I slid $100 across the counter. How about now? Tom Alvarez, lives over in Martinsville, said he served with the original owner. Tom Alvarez, Dad's squad leader. I'd found him through Mom's Christmas card list, called him from the parking lot. Ava Jesus, kid, I've been waiting for you to call. I've got your dad's stuff. Every piece. Saw it in Big Eddie's window and nearly had a heart attack. How much do you need? Not a damn cent. Just come get it. And Ava, your dad would be proud. We heard about what that asshole's been doing. Back at the house, I found Mom's car in the driveway. She was in the kitchen, making coffee with shaking hands. He's out on bail, she said without looking at me. His brother posted it. I know. Jonah called me. I sat across from her at the table Dad built. Mom, we need to talk about the house. It's Randy's house too now. You signed an illegal transfer. I'm the co-owner from 2012, Mom. Any changes to the deed required my signature. Randy knew that. It's why he forged the equity loan instead of trying to sell outright. She finally looked at me. The left side of my jaw had turned purple-black, a perfect mirror of the bruises she used to hide with concealer. I was lonely, she whispered, after your father, after you left. I was so lonely. I know. He was charming at first, helpful, fixed the roof, painted the barn. By the time I realized what he was, it was too late. The papers were signed. The money was gone. I pushed a document across the table. Sign this. It reverts the property back to the original 2012 structure. You keep lifetime residency rights, but you can't sell or mortgage without court approval. Randy gets nothing. He'll never agree. He doesn't have to. The forgery voids his claim. This just makes it clean. I touched her hand. Mom, I found Dad's medals. Tom Alvarez bought them back. We can fix this, but you have to choose. Randy or the farm. You can't have both. She looked around the kitchen at Randy's NASCAR posters covering her grandmother's wallpaper, at the holes he'd punched in the wall, at the security camera he'd installed to watch her. Where do I sign? Jonah Mercer's office hadn't changed since I was 12, same wood paneling, same leather chairs that squeaked, same photo of him and Grandpa holding matching base at Lake Monroe. What had changed was the stack of evidence on his desk, organized into color-coded folders like a prosecutor's dream. Your jaw looks like hell, he said, adjusting his reading glasses. Good. Judges hate domestic violence, especially in public spaces. The TSA footage, already subpoenaed, Delta's cooperating fully. They've had 3 incidents with Randy this year. Verbal abuse of staff, suspected intoxication, 1 attempted boarding with a concealed knife. He slid a paper across. Emergency protective order. Judge Harrison signed it an hour ago. The order was comprehensive. Randy couldn't come within 500 feet of me, Mom, or the farm. Couldn't access joint bank accounts. Couldn't sell, transfer, or encumber any property. And the beautiful part, he couldn't destroy or dispose of any household items pending inventory. The sheriff will serve him tonight, Jonah continued. Deputy Reeves volunteered for overtime. Apparently, Randy stiffed his daughter on a car repair. Small towns. Every transgression remembered. Every debt cataloged. Now, the fun part. Jonah opened the red folder. Fraud, forgery, coercive control, theft of military honors for profit that's federal. By the way, assault, battery, violation of Indiana code regarding fiduciary duty. We're going full scorched earth. He'll fight? With what money his brother already mortgaged his house for bail. Randy's got nothing except what he stole, and we're freezing all of that. By 3 p.m., we were at the farm with Deputy Reeves and a court-appointed inventory specialist. Randy's truck was in the driveway, country music blaring from the garage. He was working on his boat motor, beer cans scattered around his feet. Randy Pike. Deputy Reeves kept his hand on his service weapon. I have court documents requiring your immediate attention. Randy looked up, saw me, and his face went dark. Get off my property. Actually, I said, holding up the judge's order, it's my property, and you have 30 minutes to pack essentials. Clothes, medications, toiletries, everything else gets inventoried. This is bullshit. He threw the wrench, missing Deputy Reeves by inches. That's assault on an officer, Reeves said, reaching for his cuffs. Turn around. Wait. Randy backed against his boat. I'm just getting my things. This is my house I paid for. With money from an illegal equity loan, Jonah interrupted, which constitutes fraud. Would you like to discuss that here or at the station? The inventory took 4 hours. Every piece of Dad's remaining property was photographed and tagged. Randy's purchases with the stolen money cataloged for restitution. The specialist found 2 guns Randy shouldn't have had with his prior conviction from a bar fight in 2018. Another felony. But the moment that broke him came when we opened the garage's back cabinet. Dad's shadow box was there, hidden behind Randy's fishing gear, the flag from his funeral, folded into a perfect triangle, his unit patch, the letter from his commanding officer. Randy had kept them why? I'll never know. Trophy leverage. Found something else. Deputy Reeves called from the barn. Looks like a grow operation. 6 marijuana plants, well over Indiana's legal limit. Randy started to run. He made it about 10 feet before Reeves tackled him into the gravel he'd laid over Dad's apple trees. You planted those, Randy screamed, spit flying. This is a setup, Marla, tell them. Mom stood in the doorway, holding Dad's shadow box. For the first time in years, her spine was straight. I want a divorce, Randy, and I want you out of my house. Our house. You signed under duress, Jonah said. Documented pattern of coercive control, financial abuse, physical intimidation. The court will void any documents signed during the period of abuse. They dragged Randy away in cuffs for the second time in 3 days. This time, violation of a protective order, possession of illegal firearms by a felon, assault on a law enforcement officer, and felony cultivation. This time, no bail. That night, Mom and I sat in the cleaned-out kitchen, sorting through Dad's recovered items. Tom Alvarez had arrived at 7 p.m. with 3 boxes and 2 of Dad's Army buddies. They'd bought back everything they could find: medals, compass, boots, even his old field jacket. We've been watching, Tom said quietly, waiting for you to come home and fix this. Your dad always said you were the fighter in the family. Got that from him. I held Dad's Purple Heart up to the light. $1,000. Randy had gotten for all of it. $1,000 for a lifetime of service, for honor, for sacrifice. Tomorrow was Grandpa's funeral. Randy would be in county lockup, and I would stand at that graveside with evidence of exactly what happens when you try to steal from a Whitaker. The funeral brought out all of Riverton. Grandpa had taught shop class at the high school for 30 years, and it seemed every former student had come to pay respects. After the service, they lingered at the house, carrying casseroles and memories. Mrs. Hanley from next door cornered me by the coffee pot, her 70-year-old hands clutching a photo album. I documented everything, she whispered, flipping through pages. Every garage sale Randy held when your mother was at work. Look, your father's tools, his drafting table, that beautiful chess set your grandfather carved. Each photo was dated, meticulously labeled. May 15th, Randy selling military footlocker, $40. June 3rd, James's surveying equipment, $75. July 22nd, dining room chairs, claimed Marla wanted them gone. She never knew. Mrs. Hanley said, he'd do it while she was at the school. Told buyers it was spring cleaning. I knew better. A woman doesn't throw away her husband's Purple Heart. Tom Alvarez and 3 other veterans had set up a quiet command post in the barn. They'd spread a map on Dad's old workbench, marked with red X's. Every pawn shop and antique store in 4 counties, Tom explained. We've been hunting your dad's things for months. Got most of it back, but there's more out there. Marcus Wheeler, who'd served 2 tours with Dad, pulled out his phone. Found his engineering transit on eBay last week. Sellers in Ohio. Already won the auction, just need you to verify it's his. The serial number in the listing matched Dad's equipment log perfectly. Another piece coming home. Why? I asked. Why do all this? Your dad saved my life in Fallujah, Marcus said simply. Pulled me out of a burning Humvee. Lost half his hearing doing it. Never put in for the medal he deserved because he said it was just what you do. Man like that, you don't let his legacy get sold for beer money. That evening, after everyone left, Mom and I tackled the basement. Randy had claimed it was just storage, but behind a padlocked door, we found his real treasure boxes of financial documents, gambling receipts, loan applications in Mom's name she'd never signed. Then, in the wall behind the water heater, I noticed a loose panel. Inside was a metal lockbox, painted olive drab. Dad's Army serial number was stenciled on top. The letter inside was dated a month before he died. Ava, if you're reading this, something's happened and your mother needs protection. The deed to this farm is clear. I made sure of that. But there's something else. I've established a trust with my service benefits and life insurance. It's been earning interest at First National under account ending in 7739. Your mother doesn't know I wanted it as emergency protection. The paperwork's with Jonah Mercer. Use it to keep the farm in the family. Don't let anyone take what we've built. Fight smart, not hard. Love. Dad. P.S. The surveying equipment isn't just tools. Check the transit case bottom. I drove to Tom's house, where he'd been storing Dad's recovered items. The transit case had a false bottom I'd never noticed as a kid. Inside were savings bonds, 30 of them, purchased between my birth and Dad's deployment, worth nearly $50,000 now. He planned everything, Tom said, watching me count them. Always thinking 3 steps ahead. Said you got that from him, the chess player's mind. Back at the farm, Mom was on the porch with Sarah Martinez, the principal at Riverton Elementary where Mom worked as secretary. "Marla, we need to discuss yesterday," Sarah said gently. "Randy came to the school." Mom's face went white. "He's in jail." This was before that, around 2 p.m. He was intoxicated, demanding you leave with him, screaming about lawyers and conspiracies. We had to lock down the second grade wing. I didn't know. The security footage is disturbing. He threatened to burn the school down if you didn't drop the divorce papers. 3 teachers recorded it on their phones. Sarah squeezed Mom's hand. "We're providing all evidence to the prosecutor. And Marla, you have our full support. The entire staff wants to testify." That night, I found Mom in Dad's workshop, running her fingers over his restored workbench. The veterans had returned it that afternoon, refinished and oiled until it gleamed. "He loved this space," she said. "Spent hours here, drawing plans, building things. Randy sold it all for casino chips. We're getting it back, Mom, all of it." "It won't bring your father back." "No, but it'll honor him, and it'll ensure Randy never hurts anyone again." She picked up Dad's engineering compass, newly returned from Ohio. "Your father always said the key to building anything strong was a solid foundation. Randy tried to destroy ours." "He failed," I said, holding up the trust documents. "Dad made sure of that. Even from the grave, he's still protecting us." Outside, Tom Alvarez's truck pulled up. He and Marcus carried in Dad's footlocker, recovered from an antique shop in Fort Wayne. Inside, perfectly preserved, were Dad's dress uniform, his field manuals, and a photo of our family at my high school graduation, Dad in the center, proud and strong, unaware that cancer was already growing in his lungs. 2 more weeks, Tom said. "We'll have everything back in 2 more weeks." Monday morning at Riverton Elementary started like any other day until Randy's truck screeched into the parking lot at 9:45 a.m. He'd made bail on Sunday. His brother had taken a second mortgage, and the protective order apparently meant nothing to him. I was in the principal's office with Sarah Martinez, reviewing the security footage from his previous visit, when we heard the commotion. "Where is she, Marla? Get out here." Randy's voice carried across the playground where second graders were having recess. "I know you're in there. You and your lying bitch daughter, Sarah, hit the lockdown button. Teachers herded children inside." The resource officer, Dan Powell, was already moving toward the front entrance. Through the window, I watched Randy pound on Mom's car, leaving dents in the hood. He had a gas can in his other hand. "Tell your daughter to drop the charges." He was screaming at the building now. "This is my family, my house. She's got no right." Mom stood frozen behind the reception desk, visible through the glass doors. I stepped into the hallway where Randy could see me through the entrance. "The cameras are recording everything," I called out, holding up my phone. "The prosecutor will love this footage." He threw the gas can at the door. It bounced off, spilling fuel across the walkway. "You destroyed my life." "No, Randy, you did that yourself when you stole from a widow and sold a veteran's honors for gambling money." Officer Powell had backup now 2 county sheriffs who'd been eating breakfast down the street. They approached Randy slowly, hands on weapons. "Sir, you're violating a protective order. You need to leave immediately. This is public property. I pay taxes." "Not anymore," I said. "The house is in foreclosure for the fraudulent loan. The IRS is investigating your unreported casino winnings. And every pawn shop in the state has your photo with a do not buy order." That's when he snapped. Randy grabbed a brick from the landscaping and hurled it through the front door. Glass exploded across the entrance as 23 second graders watched from their classroom windows. The arrest was not gentle. Officer Powell, whose own father was a veteran, took particular care in applying the handcuffs. The entire event, 11 minutes of threats, property damage, and traumatizing children was captured on 4 different cameras. Sarah Martinez turned to Mom. "Marla, we need you to sign some papers." "Am I being fired?" Mom's voice was small. "What? No. We're filing a workplace violence restraining order. The school district's lawyers will handle everything. That man will never set foot on school property again." The teaching staff surrounded Mom like a protective wall. Mrs. Chen, the 3rd-grade teacher, held Mom's hand. "We've been watching him control you for years. We just didn't know how to help." "I was so ashamed," Mom whispered. "The only shame," Sarah said firmly, "belongs to him." That afternoon, in Jonah's office, Mom finally broke. Really broke. Years of suppressed fear and anger poured out as she signed document after document. "I want the divorce," she said. "I want him prosecuted. I want everything he stole returned, and I want him to know that I chose this, not Ava, me." "That's my girl," Jonah said, his grandfather voice gentle. "Your father would be proud." The transformation was remarkable. Mom's shoulders straightened. Her voice grew stronger with each signature. When we walked out, she looked like the woman who'd raised me before Randy, before the fear, before the shadows. That evening, the news spread through Riverton like wildfire. Randy Pike, local bully and suspected thief, had threatened to burn down an elementary school. Parents were furious. The footage, leaked by someone definitely not me, spread across social media. Riverton School, threat started trending locally. Randy's brother rescinded the bail money. "I'm done," he told me when I answered Mom's phone. "Let him rot." "I didn't know about the military stuff. Our dad was Army. That's unforgivable." By Tuesday morning, Randy faced new charges: violation of protective order, terroristic threatening, attempted arson, felony vandalism, and 23 counts of endangering minors. The federal prosecutor had also picked up the case, something about selling military decorations across state lines. "He's looking at 15 to 20 years, Jonah told us over coffee. "More if the gambling investigation turns up tax evasion." Mom set down her cup with steady hands. "Good." The victim's advocate from the prosecutor's office, a sharp woman named Patricia Wells, laid out our options. Given the public nature of his threats, the evidence of long-term abuse, and the financial fraud, you're looking at full restitution plus punitive damages. He'll never have another asset in his name. "What about the house?" Mom asked. "The fraudulent loan is void. The property reverts to the 2012 ownership structure you and Ava. The trust your husband established will cover the back taxes Randy didn't pay." Mom looked at me, then at Patricia. "I want to be there, for every hearing, every trial date. I want him to see me choosing justice." That night, as we sorted through more recovered items Tom's network had found Dad's coin collection at a shop in Bloomington, Mom said something that stopped me cold. "I knew about the trust." I stared at her. "Your father told me, near the end. Said it was insurance against wolves. I think he knew I was weak, that I'd let someone like Randy in." "Mom, I'm not weak anymore." She held up Dad's purple heart, polished and gleaming. "Randy's going to prison. The farm is safe, and I'm going to testify at every single hearing until justice is done." The civil lawsuit was a work of art. Jonah had brought in a specialist from Indianapolis, Rebecca Chen, who'd made her career destroying financial predators. Together, they crafted a complaint that read like Randy's worst nightmare. Count 1 fraud in the inducement. Rebecca read aloud in her office. Count 2 forgery. Count 3 conversion of property. Count 4 intentional infliction of emotional distress. Count 5 unjust enrichment. And my personal favorite, Count 6 violation of the Stolen Valor Act. "He never claimed to serve," I pointed out. "No, but he sold military decorations for profit while representing himself as the rightful owner. Federal crime. The U.S. Attorney's office is very interested." The asset discovery was revealing. Randy had 3 bank accounts we didn't know about, 2 boats titled under his brother's name to avoid creditors, and a cryptocurrency wallet with $40,000 from online gambling sites. Everything's frozen, Rebecca confirmed. He can't move a penny without court approval. Meanwhile, the criminal cases were multiplying. The original assault at LaGuardia had triggered a federal investigation. Attacking someone at an airport is Homeland Security territory. The school incident brought state charges. The fraudulent loan triggered federal wire fraud investigations. He's looking at 3 separate trials, Patricia Wells explained. Federal, state, and civil. He'll be in courtrooms for the next 2 years. But the real satisfaction came from the restoration work. Tom Alvarez's network of veterans had become a small army. They called themselves Operation Homecoming and had recovered 90% of Dad's belongings. Each piece was photographed, documented, and verified through old family photos and military records. I hired contractors, good ones, licensed and insured, everything Randy never was. They stripped his cheap improvements, revealing the original hardwood, the hand-carved moldings, the solid oak beams Dad had installed himself. "Oh, look at this," the lead contractor, Mike, called from the attic. "There's something built into the framing." Dad had created a hidden compartment between the joists. Inside was a fireproof box containing his original DD-214 discharge papers and every commendation he'd earned. Below those, a notebook filled with his handwriting sketches and measurements for renovations he'd planned but never lived to complete. "Your dad was a craftsman," Mike said, studying the plans. "These designs are brilliant. Want us to follow them. Every detail." Mom took charge of the inside restoration. She peeled away Randy's NASCAR posters to reveal her grandmother's hand-painted wallpaper, still perfect underneath. She pulled up the stained carpet Randy had installed over Dad's hardwood floors. Each layer removed was like watching her reclaim herself. "I'm donating all of Randy's things," she announced one morning, standing amid boxes of his possessions. "The women's shelter can sell them. Let something good come from his garbage." The restraining order had to be renewed monthly, but Randy couldn't appear to contest it. He was being held without bail after the school incident. His lawyer, a public defender overwhelmed with cases, tried to negotiate. "My client is willing to sign over all claims to the property in exchange for dropping the civil suit," he offered during a conference call. Rebecca laughed. "He has no claims. The transfer was fraudulent. The equity loan was forgery. He owns nothing. What he does have is liability for $200,000 in damages and counting." "That's excessive. Your client sold a Purple Heart recipient's medals for gambling money. A jury will hate him. I'm doing him a favor by not asking for triple damages." The weeks turned into months of legal procedures, each one tightening the net. Randy's gambling addiction came to light during discovery $300,000 lost in 5 years, most of it Mom's savings and retirement. The IRS opened their own investigation when they found he'd never reported his casino winnings from the few times he'd won. One evening, as Mom and I reviewed paint samples for the kitchen, she said, "I want to tell my story. Mom, at the sentencing, victim impact statement, I want the judge to know what he took, not just money or things, but years of my life, my dignity, my safety." I helped her write it. 4 pages of controlled fury, documenting the systematic destruction of her life, the isolation from friends, the financial terrorism, the constant fear. "I also want to thank him," she added at the end. "What? For showing me exactly how strong I am, for proving that I survived, for giving me the chance to choose myself and my daughter over him." The restoration continued. Dad's workshop was rebuilt exactly to his specifications. His tools, recovered from 7 different buyers, were cleaned and mounted on the pegboard he'd installed 20 years ago. The surveying equipment went into a custom cabinet built from his own designs. Tom Alvarez and the veterans held a ceremony when the last piece Dad's field jacket came home. They folded the American flag properly, presented Mom with the reclaimed medals, and saluted the portrait of Dad we'd rehung in the living room. Staff Sergeant James Whitaker's possessions have been recovered and returned to their rightful home, Tom announced formally. Mission complete, Mom cried. I cried. Half the veterans cried. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of justice, of completion, of honor restored. Randy's lawyer called one last time. He wants to make a deal, full confession, permanent surrender of all claims, in exchange for minimum sentence recommendations. No deals, I said. He gets what the judge gives him. You're being vindictive. No, I corrected. I'm being thorough. There's a difference. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with teachers from Riverton Elementary, veterans from Dad's unit, neighbors who'd watched Randy's reign of terror, and reporters from 3 counties who'd picked up the story of stolen valor and elder abuse. Randy sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, his court-appointed lawyer shuffling papers nervously. 6 months in county jail had deflated him, the swagger gone, replaced by the hollow look of a man who'd finally run out of angles to play. Judge Margaret Harrison presided, 70 years old, former JAG Corps, with zero tolerance for men who abused families and stole military honors. Randy's lawyer had tried to get her recused. Failed. We'll begin with the video evidence, Prosecutor Patricia Wells announced. The LaGuardia footage played first, crystal clear. Randy's fist connecting with my jaw, the TSA response, his threats echoing through the terminal speakers. Several jurors winced. Next came the school footage. 20 minutes of Randy terrorizing an elementary school, traumatizing children, threatening arson. The teacher in the jury box was crying silently. Then, the body cam footage from the farm. Randy admitting to selling Dad's medals. Already sold that garbage. Got more for the bronze than the purple one idiots don't know value. A veteran in the gallery stood up and walked out. The judge let him go. Patricia introduced evidence methodically. Bank records showing the systematic draining of accounts. Forged signatures blown up on poster boards, compared with authentic ones. Pawn shop receipts for items Randy had no right to sell. Casino surveillance footage of him gambling away Mom's retirement fund. The defendant didn't just steal money, Patricia said. He stole a legacy. He sold the honors of a man who served 3 tours in Iraq, who saved lives, who earned every medal through blood and sacrifice. He sold them for poker chips. The defense was pathetic. Randy's lawyer argued addiction, mental health issues, claimed Randy believed he had rights to the property as Mom's husband. Did your client have permission to forge Mrs. Pike's signature? Patricia asked on cross. He believed yes or no. Did he have permission? No. Did he have the right to sell military decorations that weren't his? He thought as part of the household. Staff Sergeant Whitaker died before Mr. Pike ever met Mrs. Pike. Were those medals his to sell? No. Mom took the stand for victim impact. She wore Dad's favorite color Air Force blue and spoke clearly, without notes. Randy Pike stole more than money. He stole my peace, my safety, my connection to my late husband's memory. He isolated me from friends, convinced me I was worthless, and when my daughter tried to protect me, he assaulted her in public. She looked directly at Randy. But you failed. My husband's fellow soldiers bought back every medal. My daughter documented every crime. The community you terrorized is here to see justice. You thought you destroyed me, but you only revealed your own emptiness. Tom Alvarez testified about finding Dad's Purple Heart in a pawn shop window. Like finding a piece of my brother in a garbage dump, James saved my life. That medal represented his blood, his sacrifice. Sold for $50. Mrs. Hanley from next door showed her photos. Every garage sale, every item sold without permission, documented with dates and times. Sarah Martinez testified about the school lockdown. 23 7-year-olds watched a man threaten to burn down their school. They had nightmares for weeks. 3 families transferred to other districts. When Randy took the stand for sentencing, he tried one last manipulation. I loved Marla. I just wanted to provide for her. The gambling was a sickness. I need help, not prison. You had chances for help. Judge Harrison interrupted. Your brother offered rehab 5 times according to his testimony. You refused. You chose to steal, forge, and assault rather than seek treatment. The judge reviewed each count. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 15 counts in total. Mr. Pike, you are a particular kind of parasite. You prey on grief, exploit kindness, and wrap yourself in the flag of victimhood while selling actual heroes' honors for gambling money. She continued, for assault, 18 months. For forgery, 3 years. For fraud, 5 years. For terroristic threatening, 4 years. Sentences to run consecutively. Total of 11.5 years. No possibility of parole before 6 years. Restitution of $347,000 to be paid from seized assets and future earnings. Lifetime restraining order protecting Mrs. Pike and Ms. Whitaker. The gavel came down like thunder. Randy turned to Mom, started to speak. The bailiffs were already moving. Additionally, Judge Harrison continued, I'm recommending federal prosecution for violations of the Stolen Valor Act. That's another potential 5 years. They removed Randy's wedding ring before handcuffing him. It would be sold for restitution. He screamed something about appeals, about injustice, about his rights. No one listened. In the hallway, veterans lined both sides. They didn't speak, just stood at attention as Mom walked past. Dad's medals in a shadow box clutched to her chest. A silent honor guard for a widow who'd fought back and won. Patricia Wells handed me the final paperwork. The house deed is cleared, all fraudulent liens removed. Your father's trust has been restored with interest. Randy's assets, boats, vehicles, hidden accounts will be liquidated for restitution. What about Mom's divorce? Uncontested now. He has no resources to fight it. Should be final in 60 days. That evening, Mom and I stood in Dad's rebuilt workshop. His Purple Heart was mounted in the center of the tool wall, surrounded by his compass, square, and level the instruments of an engineer who'd built everything true and strong. It's finished, Mom said. The late afternoon sun slanted through the restored windows of the farmhouse, catching the dust motes that danced above Dad's workbench. Everything was back where it belonged, his tools on their designated hooks, the wood oils and stains in their proper order, even the pencil marks on the wall where he'd measured my height every birthday until I turned 18. Mom stood in the doorway, running her fingers along the doorframe where Dad had carved our initials the day they'd brought me home from the hospital. J plus M A, James plus Marla equals Ava. Simple math. He'd called it perfect equation. The trust paperwork is complete, I said, setting down the folder from Jonah's office. The Whitaker Family Trust now holds the deed. You have lifetime residency, but no one can ever mortgage or sell this place without court approval. It's protected. She nodded, her eyes fixed on something beyond the window. Maybe the spot where the apple trees would be replanted come spring. Tom Alvarez had sourced saplings from the same nursery Dad had used 30 years ago. In the kitchen, I filed the last document into a thick binder, its spine labeled simply closed. Inside were all the court orders, the verdicts, the restitution agreements, Randy's prisoner number, the federal charges that would add another 3 to 5 years to his sentence. The divorce decree that had arrived yesterday, signed by a judge who'd added a handwritten note, "Stay strong, Mrs. Whitaker." She'd already taken back Dad's name. I found the LaGuardia surveillance photo the moment of impact, Randy's fist against my jaw. The bruise had faded months ago, but the evidence remained, stamped with the court seal. Exhibit A in a case that had ended with justice, served cold and thorough, exactly how Dad would have planned it. The Purple Heart sat in its place of honor above the mantel, flanked by the Bronze Star and Dad's engineering degree from Purdue. Below them, a new addition the gavel Judge Harrison had used to sentence Randy, a gift from her chambers with a note, for a family that fought with law instead of fists. Mom picked up an old photo from the side table Dad in his dress uniform, her in a sundress. Me, at 16, rolling my eyes at the camera. 3 weeks before his diagnosis. Our last perfect summer. He knew, she said quietly. Somehow, He knew I'd need protection after he was gone. The trust, the documentation, teaching you to think 3 steps ahead. He knew you were strong enough to use them, I replied. You just needed time to remember. Outside, a car pulled up. Tom Alvarez and 3 other veterans, arriving for their weekly visit. They'd adopted Mom, these rough men who'd seen war and come home broken but not beaten. Every Thursday at 5 p.m., they showed up to check the house, share stories about Dad, make sure Mom never felt alone again. Marla. Tom called through the screen door. We brought the saplings, 3 Honeycrisps, just like James planted. I watched them work, these men in their 60s, carefully placing each tree where Dad's orchard had once stood. Mom directed them, her voice sheer and strong, nothing like the woman who'd cowered in this kitchen just months ago. The sun was setting by the time I loaded my rental car. Back to Manhattan tomorrow. Back to Summit and Crew Holdings, where I'd already implemented new protocols for investigating financial elder abuse. My jaw had healed, the farm was secure, and Randy Pike was learning that prison orange would be his only fashion choice for the next decade. Mom walked me to the car, Dad's field jacket wrapped around her shoulders despite the warm evening. You could stay, she said, though we both knew I couldn't. My fight was in the city now, using what I'd learned here to protect other families from their own Randy Pikes. I'll be back for Thanksgiving. Tom promised to teach me Dad's stuffing recipe. She smiled, and for the first time in years, it reached her eyes. Your father would be proud. You fought smart, not hard. You used the system he believed in. As I drove down County Road 9, I looked back once. Mom stood on the porch, backlit by the warm light from inside, Dad's purple heart visible through the window. The farm looked like home again, not the home Randy had corrupted, but the one Dad had built strong foundations, true angles, everything square and level. At the airport, I didn't flinch when I reached the check-in counter, didn't look over my shoulder, didn't expect any fists. I'd already won that fight, not with violence but with evidence, with patience, with the kind of strategic thinking Dad had taught me over chess games at the kitchen table. I set my suitcase on the scale and smiled at the agent. My phone buzzed a text from Mom with a photo. She'd hung a new sign at the farm's entrance, Whitaker Farm established 1952, restored 2024, protected forever. Below it, smaller text that would have made Dad laugh. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We keep records. We keep receipts. We keep winning. The evidence was filed. The verdicts were final. The farm was safe. And somewhere in an Indiana state prison, Randy Pike was learning that you can't steal from a Whitaker and expect anything less than complete, methodical, legally devastating revenge. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives make this community special. What did you think of Ava's journey? Let me know in the comments.